make a move. And now he joins us. Andrew Yang, thank you very much. So, your analysis, fewer people up there, is that the end of the analysis of why people seemed on their game tonight, or do you think it's also finding your footing?
It was a different dynamic, I have to say. 7's a lot more compact than 10, and so you felt like the ball was going to come to you pretty quickly each time. I certainly enjoyed this dynamic much more.
Forget about better, worse, smarter, or less. Why do you think you speak about economics and movements of industry and evolution of industry in a different way than other people up there?
Well, I spent 7 years running a national nonprofit that helped create thousands of jobs in primarily the Midwest and the South. So doing that work led me to see firsthand the impact of automation in many of these communities. It's a little bit like if you want to try and convince someone of climate change, you might bring them to a glacier in Alaska. If you want to convince someone about the impact of automation, you might bring them to Detroit or Cleveland or one of those cities. So I did that work for 7 years, plus I'm a numbers guy, and the numbers are staggering. I also understand technology much better than the other candidates, frankly, and technology is now transforming our economy in more and more powerful and fundamental ways.
How do you deal with the fact that the reality of the tech sector, of the private sector, is often ahead of government?
And, no. Oh my gosh.
But it's about, you've got to speak their language, and you have to understand. Look, Schwarzenegger has a great quote on this, that he was used to getting things done in the private sector, investing, moving, and not just movies. He got in the government and he learned, oh, I got to speak their language. I've got to build a coalition of where their heads are at on this, or there is no progress. How do you do that?
Well, we all know that DC is 25 years behind on technology. We literally got rid of the Office of Technology Assessment in 1995. So we have to play catch up as quickly as possible, because with the rate of change, you can't afford to be decades behind the curve. You might have been able to get away with that at earlier points in our history, but it's gone from being dangerous to disastrous very, very quickly. I believe I can help us play catch up. And when I've sat with the technologists in Silicon Valley, some of them said something to me that you would not expect. They said, we actually need government regulation and government input on this because we're making these decisions that we should not be making. And one of them actually said that all of their incentives on artificial intelligence are to go as fast as possible. And eventually they're going to do something deeply, deeply problematic if that's their incentive.
Now, I want to open it up to the floor of better minds here, but two things I thought really stood out tonight. One is that you said something that's so true for parents. You have a kid who's on the autism spectrum, has special needs. You said, but that's the new normal, is that everybody seems to need something. Boy, did that resonate with the room, even with me as a kid with kids in lower school, middle school, and high school. But then you were ready. Of course, you were the only minority group represented there, although you could really add women in that. You were ready for the question. You immediately turned it away from yourself in a way that was very non-normal for a politician, and you had statistics ready to telescope the issue into an argument about African American, Latino, and emerging. So you knew it was coming. Why go that way? Oh, let me play it in case people missed it at home.
Sure.
Here's what I'm talking about.
It's both an honor and disappointment to be the lone candidate of color on the stage tonight. I grew up the son of immigrants, and I had many racial epithets used against me as a kid. But Black and Latinos have something much more powerful working against them than words. They have numbers. The average net worth of a Black household is only 10% that of a white household. For Latinos, it's 12%. These are the numbers that define race in our country. And the question is, why am I the lone candidate of color on this stage? Fewer than 5% of Americans donate to political campaigns. You know what you need to donate to political campaigns? Disposable income. The way we fix this is we take Martin Luther King's message of a guaranteed minimum income, a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month for all Americans. I guarantee if we had a freedom dividend of $1,000 a month, I would not be the only candidate of color on this stage tonight.
The YangGang in full effect in the cheap seats of the students. When you said that, you were mathing it up, making America think harder. Why did you, instead of doing what a lot of politicians would do, which was kind of milk it, you know, about what it means about me, and this is about me, and I'm an Asian American, and this is what about it, you telescoped it. Why?
Well, I would never put my experience growing up Asian American and somehow frame that as representative of the experience of over 120 million Americans of color, particularly because the Asian American experience is distinct from the Black experience and the Latino experience. And it was 100% natural for me to try and give that perspective. No one wants to hear a sob story about some Asian kid, getting like picked on for like being scrawny. I mean, frankly, like no one cares, and they shouldn't care. Maybe they should care a tiny bit, because I've got 2 Asian kids who are also, a little bit scrawny.
Let's see what's the rest of the floor have here?
I actually just have a question. At the very beginning of the debate, the questions were about impeachment. And I spent time with you in Iowa last month. You mentioned this to me there, and you said it again now, and it's even more relevant, and that is the Democrats are spending way too much time on impeachment. Now that the president has been impeached and it's heading to the Senate for a trial, do you still feel that way?
I've been campaigning nonstop since we spent time together in Iowa. I can't even remember anyone asking me a question about impeachment. Right. Americans are not focused on this in the same way that the networks are. And to me, there's just a crucial number of 0. That's the number of Republicans that have signaled that they're going to cross party lines, and you need 20 in the Senate. So until that number becomes greater than 0, unfortunately, this does seem like a foregone conclusion.
And do you still think it's hurting your party and whomever the candidate who goes up against Trump will be?
I was disappointed that I seem to have the lone difference of opinion up there, where everyone else was signaling impeachment. And when I talk to Americans, a lot of them are saying, look, I don't care as much about impeachment as the fact that I'm choosing between my drugs and my heating oil, or that my kid is depressed. Like, those are the issues that voters tell me that they're focused on, rightfully so.
But you said you have to stop being obsessed, was the word you used, obsessed over impeachment. Is that the media you're saying is obsessed over impeachment? I mean, this is the President of the United States who was impeached yesterday by the House.
It's okay, they can take it.
No,
yeah, you can.
Well, you can't blame a TV network for saying impeachment is is like the news of the day, like all the time.
Sure.
Like, and it is historic. As a candidate running for president, I need to be talking about things that are different from impeachment.
Do you think it will affect votes of moderates who might vote Republican, might vote Democrat? I mean, do you see it affecting?
What I see it doing is reinforcing polarization, and it's also a missed opportunity for candidates to present a unifying vision to the country that can peel off people who are independents or disaffected Trump voters.
So Andrew, you're making a marketing argument, and and it's a sensible one. But what do you do? I mean, there's a constitutional argument as well. And do you not pursue sort of blatant violations of the Constitution and the oath of office if there's not a interest among them in the market for it? I mean, where do you draw the line? How do you make those judgments?
I am pro-impeachment. I think that Nancy Pelosi did the right thing by moving it forward. I would say that I would be much more excited about impeachment if they'd managed to wrangle a Republican or two before they decided to leave the station, because it is a very poor message to the country where you have virtually all the Democrats on one side and virtually all the Republicans on the other. But I agree that Democrats did the right thing by moving forward.
Look, a lot of people are talking about impeachment. Nobody's talking about artificial intelligence and the actual national security threat that China's move in that direction poses. Nobody's talking about putting real cash in people's pockets. People talk about jobs. People got a bunch of jobs. They ain't got no money. You are somebody who's brought completely fresh thinking because you're so future focused, but you also have this grip on America's history as well. And you're starting to move. Why do you think you've been able to survive? You have now outlasted governors, senators, billionaires, people in the House of Representatives, people who are household names are not on that stage. You're on the stage. Why?
I think because we're having a conversation that Americans recognize as the truth of what's happened in their communities. We blasted away 40,000 manufacturing jobs in Iowa alone, and then Iowa went to Trump by 8 points. And this is playing out now on main streets around the country where Amazon is closing 30% of our stores and malls, and being a retail clerk is the most common job in these communities. I've had the same message the entire time, and it's broken through to the American people that these are the real problems and we have real solutions.
You got support from somebody who I didn't think you'd ever get the support of. I didn't think any politician would. Donald Glover, Childish Gambino, a hip-hop legend. He comes out, he doesn't come out for Cory Booker, doesn't come out for Kamala Harris, doesn't come out for Obama's guy Biden, comes out for you, and more are coming. There's something that's beginning to shift around you. How did you get Childish Gambino on the Yang Gang?
You stole my question.
Go ahead, we know you got to go.
No, this was a thrill for me because I'm a huge Donald Glover fan. I was like, no way.
That's crazy.
So someone on his team reached out to an agent that we knew in common, and then they said, hey, next time you're in LA, Donald wants to sit down with you. And we talked about our concerns and vision for the future. And we found that we were very, very aligned. And then from there, we talked about different ways to collaborate. And I am thrilled to be working with someone who sees the future as clearly as Donald does.
Yeah, you're starting to steal from different parts of the Democratic Party coalition, moderates, young blacks, and others. I just think that I'm proud to see that you're starting to prove with a smaller stage, you can get your argument across.
Let's see where it goes. Andrew Yang, the best to you
Thank
and your
you
family
all.
for the holidays.
You too. Huge fan of these people. They're real pros.
And just as a point of fact, not a little guy. 6'2", about 200 pounds. Not a little guy. All right, we're going to take a break right now. After we take the